Is this my we're live.
Go.
Hi, everybody. Before we hit the intro, just wanted to say hi and let some people roll in. You guys doing all right? I'm saying that after like hearing about how you guys.
Yeah, right. After we've spent 10 minutes like complaining about human existence. Yeah.
Let's hit the intro. All right, so my name is Mr. Judah Buddha, and I'm here with AJ Herschel, the kid, and the absolute stud, it's Jared. And we are the Rotohackers podcast, your unofficial source of fantasy football. And also like, for me, this is like a something to get away from politics, news, COVID, all this stuff, and just, you know, it's fantasy. It's what my wife calls fancy football. And so hopefully we can provide. We are providing an outlet, a escape from all of our jobs and modern day problems. Football's cool like that, right? It's like totally divorced from, well, it used to be.
I don't know what football you're watching, but the one that I watched there was a pretty good political debate over players kneeling, and then last year we spent most of the season not knowing if games were going to be played because of COVID. So I would like to watch this one that you are saying that's divorced from all of that.
I think he's talking about the indoor football.
I mean, to a certain extent, fantasy is more not COVID exactly, but maybe this year at least it's more separated from that. But more than
anything else, more than say,
more so,
Oh yeah.
I guess we could be talking about Marvel and stuff like that, which is a little bit more divorced from all that. But let's have some fun. Talk about some fake football, guys. Did you guys see that real football last night?
Yeah,
we did.
Was that last night? 2 nights ago, right?
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Jared, what was your thoughts on the game?
I mean, the game was. It was an entertaining bad game, you know. It was an entertaining game between two bad teams. So yeah, I cared really not that much about it. I mean, I had players normally that would be more involved in that, but so I've got Saquon in maybe like 4 leagues or something like that. I mean, out of 20. But I benched him in 3 out of 4 because I figured just a short week, he wasn't going to get that much action, and he did. I mean, he had like nearly 8 points or something like that. If he had a touchdown, it would have made it okay. But I think next week's probably the week for Saquon to get back to a little more normal Saquon. And I had Antonio Gibson in 2 or 3 leagues, but then also he was playing against me in like 5. So I had to kind of, just for numbers purposes, root against Antonio Gibson a little bit because he was going to do a whole lot more damage against me than he was going to help me. So the one that really did help was Terry McLaurin, because I had him in 2 or 3 leagues. Had him in 2 or 3 leagues, and he was only playing against me in 1, and he had a very nice game, and that sort of relieved me a little bit about him. Because when Fitzpatrick went down, I wasn't sure, but Heineke seems to have a good rapport with him. And then the big thing, in which, one of them is your guy, so I won't go into that a whole lot. I'll let you talk about it a little bit, but Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard, nice little connection there. Plus Daniel Jones,
a little silver spoon.
Plus, Daniel Jones looks like he's going for the rushing title this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were some interesting little bits that came out of that. Oh, plus if you had, if for some reason, I don't know how, I doubt many people did this, but if for some reason you started Graham Gano at kicker, go ahead. Congratulations on your victory this week.
Wow.
What, 21 points, I think, right?
I don't know if it's 21 or 22. It was something crazy. Yeah.
Did you start him, AJ?
No, I did not. I didn't start a kicker who scored 1 point last week. So I didn't have the foresight.
Yeah, he had 1 point last week and 22 this week. So, but AJ, you plugged Hopkins, didn't you? And he had a nice game.
Yeah, I did. Hopkins, I liked him, especially from last year. He went on a nice streak and 14 points again. I think that's back-to-back weeks, 10 plus. I think he's going to be pretty good, kicking a lot of field goals for the rest of the year for the most part. Also, if I sound weird, my voice is dead. But yeah, I liked Hopkins. Unfortunately, I should have dropped 1 or 2 kickers for him maybe, but I'm okay with him. I'm still going to keep saying him every single week. I had Gibson going in like 1 or 2. I think I had him in 1. I had Logan Thomas in 2. Terry McLaurin got me a whopping 32 in a league where our commissioner set first downs to get points as well. So that helped out quite a bit. But I had one league where Gibson and Thomas, I had them both. So I'm starting to prepare for the worst in that one, because I think a whopping 15 points combined from both of them. And I have a total of 0 Giants starting, because I don't trust anyone outside of maybe Shepard in that offense right now. So I didn't have anyone there.
Well, it was an interesting game. I like what you guys about, or Jared, what you said about it was what'd you say? It was bad. It was a good game
between bad teams.
Yeah. The announcers kept saying this is a pretty good game, and I was like,
Well, compared to the NFC East games we got last year, like it is scoring 20 points for both of them is like high marks, which it had the most NFC East ending. A missed field goal, but the penalty takes back the field goal for him to make the field goal. It's everything I wanted in a football team game.
I just felt that miss coming. Like if I could have bet $100 on him missing in that moment, I would have. I just felt that coming, but I didn't account for the Giants then jumping off sides to give him a mulligan.
Yeah. Well, for fantasy purposes, it is true. We can count on. Not count on, but I feel better about McLaurin scoring. McLaurin.
Yeah.
I guess I am kind of panicking a little bit on Saquon, just in the sense that like that one where he broke away, like normally, I think that would have been a touchdown. You know, he had too many guys, big guys. Granted, Chase Young, fast guy, catch them really, which to me in his heyday, boom, he would have been gone. He would have been just towing the line and Speedy Gonzalez to the touchdown. But I don't know. I mean, they say it takes about a year to come back from a ACL. Back, what's his name? Cook. Had about a year after his ACL. It was just not great for fantasy. He was still pretty good, but it was still rough and frustrating. So we'll see. Okay, so Sterling Shepard.
He is Sterling Silver right now.
He's Sterling.
He's not
Silver.
quite. He's not quite gold. He's not quite gold, but he's Sterling Silver.
It was interesting to see. I don't know if you guys saw Galladay screaming at Daniel Jones on the sideline.
Yeah, I saw the headline. I never bothered to watch the video, but yeah.
Yeah, he was not happy, and a lot of it is because Daniel Jones is not a good football player, and he does the play. A lot of the best football players throw where the player is supposed to be, right? Like the ball gets there before the player gets there. Daniel Jones kind of hesitates and taps the ball a little bit more and underthrows or just totally doesn't trust his the plays enough, and
Mhm.
he kind of plays like a rookie still, in
Yeah.
some ways, which is
Yeah.
concerning for Galladay in particular. I have
Mhm.
Galladay in one place that I just hung on to him in my dynasty league, hoping that he might.
Mm.
I stayed away from him everywhere in redraft because I'm like, I'm not touching that. But in my dynasty, I was like, you know what? I can't get anything great for him, so I'm just gonna hang on to him.
I traded him in one league. I think I ended up with him in like 4 leagues, but I mean, because I paid like $2 for him in auction drafts. So I'm like, I'm willing to take a flyer on him for $2. I traded him straight up for Corey Davis in one league, and
Nice.
I was happy with that deal before the game, and then now I'm happier. But yeah, he just like I don't know. I mean, I think in 10-team leagues, he's borderline depending on who else is out there. Like he's not really somebody. Maybe you can stash him at the end of your bench. But I think you can even make a case for dropping him for somebody else that's available. He'll get better, I'm sure.
I think you're right.
But at the same time, it's tough to really, I mean, Slayton had a touchdown too, and Slayton's, not just going away. And so I don't really know. And I have no sympathy for Kenny Golladay here because I don't know what other teams were offering, but you didn't get traded to the Giants. You didn't get drafted by the Giants. You chose to sign with the Giants after watching Daniel Jones for 2 years. So you got your money, and obviously that was what was most important. So don't complain now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to continue with Sterling Shepard. I mean, I knew that he was going to get a good deal of the targets, but I do think that Galladay is going to get better. I do think that his rapport with Daniel Jones will get better, and Daniel Jones is going to try to work on it and try to target him more, and that'll be to the detriment, I think, of Shepard. But for now, I say ride it, stay in the fire.
Yeah, but the thing too, though, with Galladay is, you look at what he's done, and his raw numbers are not bad. I mean, he had a great 2019 season, nearly 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, and that was after a pretty good sophomore year of 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. Last year, he would have been on pace for another, maybe 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns or something like that. But you got to think too, he had a better quarterback throwing to him in Detroit in Matt Stafford. He had, there was Marvin Jones who showed up in the second half of the season, but for half of a season, he was essentially the only target and then one of 2 targets for the second half of the season. And he's never, his reception numbers have been 70, 65, and then 20 in basically what was a third of a season. So reception wise, he doesn't catch a lot of balls. You're looking at a guy who, even with a, pretty good quarterback, is only getting maybe 65 catches. So I, just thinking about that and then trying to plug him into that situation in New York where he's got a quarterback who has more weapons along the same level as Galladay, a quarterback who likes to run the ball, a team that's going to eventually, when Saquon is closer to full speed, they're going to want to feed Saquon more. Like he will get better. And if you're in a 12-team league or bigger, you can absolutely, keep him. But I mean, it really is borderline for me where I traded him in that one league and there's one where I'll keep him and a couple others. I'm like, there's maybe another player here that I could just drop him for and might have better chances with. So,
yeah. AJ, do you have any shares of Galladay or Sterling Shepard on my advice?
I don't have any shares of Shepard, unfortunately. I think I maybe have 1 or 2 of Galladay. Not that I'm starting him anywhere. He's just a depth guy that I took a fly on in the hopes that he might get something in. And to be fair, I think he did get more targets last game than the previous week. And I don't know. Maybe he'll intimidate Daniel Jones into throwing him the ball more often. So, he's surviving for another week, but man, it is getting really hard to hang on to him in a 10-team Yeah, man, I don't know what to think of the Giants, to be honest. They're a team that I feel like I never really trust when it comes to wide receivers for more than like 3 weeks, because Shepard will always explode. And then you guys remember Slayton was like the hero of New York for like 6 weeks 2 years ago or whatever. And then he got drafted super high, and then he never really caught the ball again. And I mean, for crying out loud, Slayton almost was the best receiver last game if he didn't drop a touchdown. So
he had 2 big touchdowns. If he had caught them, he would have had a huge game.
Oh yeah. And that's not even including the fact that Kyle Rudolph is still around, who is going to make Evan Ingram irrelevant, clearly. But yeah, that offense is just something that I don't know if I really ever want to touch. I mean, Shepard's great, but I don't know how long that ride's gonna last.
Well, if you guys don't have anything else about the Thursday night game, I think we should jump into the news.
Well, I was gonna say, like, you kind of buried the lead here. I was a little bit disappointed that you didn't show up in sunglasses. I feel obligated. I feel obligated to acknowledge that Judah broke the streak.
True.
What is one of
it wasn't that big of a deal for me.
Do we need to kick him off the stream until he gets sunglasses? Do we need to do
that? Let you win, you know?
No, I've now that we can't have him do it if it takes me pointing it out. But so I think, just kind of known in society as the second greatest streak besides the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was my what was it, six straight wins over Judah. Maybe it was 7. I don't remember. It's kind of like in The Walking Dead, where they count the number of walkers that they kill for a while, and then at some point you just lose count. So I don't remember what the actual total got up to, but it's pretty good. It has now been broken, but that's okay.
I'd say I beat you by what? 20, 25 points, something like that.
It was like maybe closer to 30. Yeah, it was not a good. Although there is some humor in the fact that it's in a league where Judah paid my entry fee because he owed me money. So I mean, even then, like it's in a league where I literally have nothing right. Nothing invested in it. So I don't want that to take away from his victory. It was a legitimate hard-earned victory. But I had that was my league where I had Ezekiel Elliott, James Robinson, and Raheem Mostert. And so my entire running back core, let me down on that one. But that's okay. That's all right.
Well, I had to give both you guys a little roughing up. You guys in the listener league got to start picking it up a little bit, guys. Come on now.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it.
That one didn't go well either. So why I'm here. Overall, but see, the thing for me, I should probably care more about bragging rights. But I was 12-9 for the week last week because I ended up with 21 teams. I was going to keep it to 20 or less, but then Judah had me get in that last one. So I was 12-9, but the 3 I lost, 2 of them were $20 leagues, and one of them was our free listeners league. So I went 12-6 in my bigger money leagues. So that was some silver lining for me.
Yeah.
And I do need to give a quick shout out as a thank you to Lamar Jackson and Darren Waller, who helped me beat someone by 0.5 on Monday night. It was the one I was freaking out about. And once Lamar fumbled, I panicked and I kept
refreshing. You had Lamar?
I had Lamar going. I had Lamar and Waller. I needed 30. I got literally 30.5 from them both or whatever it was. And I got just over the mark to be able to get the win. But, man, Lamar almost gave me a heart attack. So when he fumbled, my brain was just like, wait a second. How many points did I need again?
I was super invested in that game because I was playing against the champion from last year in my church league and Loic, and Loic, right?
Yeah.
And he was beating the hands off of me, I thought, and then I caught up, and I had 10 points, and he had Lamar going. Who do you have? Lamar and the
Daniel
tight end.
Carlson.
What's his name?
Waller, Andrews.
Andrews. Yeah. He
Okay.
had Lamar and Andrews. I had the kicker for. It's Carlson, and I ended up on that fumble. I won by 1 point.
Ooh.
I was tense at the end of that game because I had 5 leagues that were within a matter of a handful of points, and like I had Lamar in one, I had Andrew, it was all like a mix. It was a mix of like me or my opponent having, Lamar, Mark Andrews, Tyson, the Baltimore defense. And so when it kept going, each time I'd be like, oh, just end, but I ended up having 4 leagues that I won by under 2 points. And then I had one that I lost by less than a point, but like 4 out of 5, when it's that close, I'll take winning 4 out of 5, but it was just so close because like Lamar would fumble and then I'd drop down, and then like the Ravens defense. And I'm like, oh, if they get like a strip sack fumble, I'm going to lose 2 others, so that was like, it was a crazy game because not only was the game crazy, but then my fantasy games were all just riding on this, on like where one interception or something could have changed the whole thing. So that was an entertaining Monday night game.
It was good. And let's see. So we have Battle Royale 2K. He's saying what's up, and starting off good, starting off 1-0 in the Listener League. He I forget who he beat, but he's doing pretty well. He's right up there.
He took down Ben's Legends by 60, almost 60.
Yeah, and on that note, as I think I said in a text thread, like RIP to Ben's fab, because he went all in on Elijah Mitchell. I hope Elijah Mitchell is a stud for him. I mean, genuinely, like, because that is a gutsy call.
Yeah. I actually went out and got Elijah Mitchell in a few places.
Same.
I said, why not? Same. Especially this is where I had Sermon. I thought, let's double up. If one of them becomes, the lead, it just seems like it's good. It can't hurt having two guys from that offense. I don't know.
Well, and especially with the news on Mostert changed, where it went from him being out for half the season to him being gone for the full season. So, so I think that makes obviously a big difference too. I had a pretty good week on the waiver wire because one person dropped Sermon and I got Sermon. It was
easy.
It was interesting. It was interesting because, Mitchell was out there and then somebody dropped Sermon. I think I had the second, or no, I don't know. Maybe it was even lower than that. But anyway, someone with a higher waiver priority than me picked Mitchell over Sermon. And so then I got Sermon. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Because it could just as easily be Sermon this week. Someone else, they may have done this I imagine they did this before Sunday's game, but they dropped Jamar Chase, and I picked up Jamar Chase.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my!
What leagues are you in?
They're all like $50 and $100 leagues except for the 3 that I mentioned. You'd think that people would be a little more strategic with some of those decisions, but it happens. So,
and you never know. Maybe Sermon turns out to be a big bust. Well, let's go to the news and hit the stinger.
News in the NFL today.
So we got a bunch of news coming out, little things, mostly Tyrell Williams and concussion protocol. Peyton Barber going to be the lead back, with news, buried the lead here, that Jacobs is going to be out this week. Pittman, questionable against the Rams. This guy, I don't know. I should have followed your reservation more on him. Jared.
Yeah,
This guy is-
I like Michael Pittman, but you know,
for fantasy,
Indy,
he's not.
Indy likes to spread the ball around, and you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Indy likes to spread the ball around. He and Wentz haven't really had much time together, and yeah, I hope the Colts don't have yet another receiver. Like, you know, the year before they drafted Paris Campbell, or maybe 2 years before, and he's just, you know, had injury problems, and so I hope it's not the same situation with Pittman again. But both of them are questionable. Yeah, Michael Pittman with an ankle and Paris Campbell abdomen. So, you know, so there's Zach Paschall. You know, I picked Paschall up in our listeners league because Paschall's not a flashy guy, but they like to get him the ball, and he seems to find ways to score. Strawn is this kid out of the Bahamas who's 6'5". It looks like Strachan. It looks like Strachan. He caught a couple of balls last week, but he was a 7th round pick. He dominated D2 a couple years ago, and then they didn't have a season during COVID last year. So the Colts got him as a 7th round pick, and he was just a training camp superstar. He's 6'5", just massive, you know, athletic guy, and hasn't played, you know, that much football. So, so I'm excited about what he could do. But yeah, it's pronounced Strawn, but it's spelled like Strachan, Strachan. So he only caught a couple of passes. He was targeted twice and caught both his passes in the Seahawks game. And it was kind of cool because it was I think it was ESPN that had flown his parents from the Bahamas because his parents had never gotten to watch him play football. They had never seen him in person. So he's a cool story. I'm really rooting to see him do well. But not to derail the Pittman thing, but yeah, Pittman is Pittman was
really important. Strawman, whatever.
Strawn. You'll never remember that.
Strawn it's a good one to pick up. I just looked, and somebody had already picked him up in my dynasty league, so somebody's onto it.
Oh yeah, he's potentially a really good dynasty pick. Yeah,
that's interesting. I wish I'd talked to you about it before. But what about you, AJ? What do you think with Williams being out for the Lions? We've got, you know, some interesting wide receivers. Not interesting because the team's any good, but because there may be some targets and some potential. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, what are your feelings about this guy? Because I've heard a lot of buzz about him, and this may be his chance, unless it's Quintez Cephas. You know,
my boy.
Oh, that's your. Well, talk to me about your boy.
I just saw him I just remember him getting like a big 50-yard touchdown catch on Thanksgiving last year, and he just had the coolest name ever. So that's the only reason I remember. Look, I think it's a Hawkinson game. I think it's a D Swift game. If you look at the game against the 49ers, Goff hit his receivers sparingly and basically honed in on checkdowns and TJ Hawkinson. That is it. And granted, who do they get this week? Packers?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be mad, and the defense is going to be mad. So Hawkinson and D Swift, I would fire up absolutely everything. And after that, I'm like, hope for the best. Look, the Lions aren't a team of wide receiver core I want to touch, because especially right now, because I feel like any one of them could blow up at any moment. It could be Cephas. It could be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know Tyrell Williams is supposed to come out, but he only got 14 yards last week. And then there's that other dude named Trinity, which every time I hear his name, I think of the Matrix. And he caught like 3 passes or whatever. So that is not a team I trust at all at the wide receiver position. So
yeah I wouldn't trust Swift. A little bit of a.
He got 8 catches last game though.
So Matthew Berry put out a thing saying, basically talking about Swift being questionable. I mean, it sounded like from what the coaches were saying that, yeah, he's technically questionable, but he's, was going to play. So I don't know if Matthew Berry heard something or saw something to, make him doubt that. But, he was talking about how if Swift didn't play, then suddenly DeAndre Swift would be like, or I'm sorry, if Swift didn't play, Williams would be a, like top 12 play. But, I mean, number one, if you weren't already planning on starting Williams anyway, do you want to wait till Monday night to see? Because I mean, then you're stuck with him. So because it's a Monday night game, it really doesn't matter. You have to kind of, play who you think is going to be the best guy, unless you want to just roll the dice on Jamal Williams.
It is a revenge game. All right, we have not even average. Whoa, man.
Good to see you.
Lowered expectations. PPR, start 2 of the 3. Damian Harris, Edmonds, or Downtown Antonio Brown. 2 of the 3. I've got to go Damian Harris and AB. What do you guys think? AJ?
I'm thinking about this one. Jerry, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that too. I mean, Chase Edmonds, we kind of got to see a little bit of the running back situation in Arizona there last week. It looks like, mostly a split. I mean, Chase Edmonds had 63 yards on the ground on 12 carries, and then he also had 4. He caught all 4 of his targets for 43 yards. So he ended up with 12.6 points, which is relatively respectable flex play. Connor had all of his points on 16 carries. He actually got more carries and had 53 yards. I think he would have probably gotten the goal line carries. So I think Edmonds has a sort of limited upside there to a certain extent. I think AB and Damian Harris have a higher upside, since Harris is probably going to be the goal line back for the Patriots. And, we saw how much Tom Brady likes throwing to Antonio Brown last week. So, yeah, those 2 for me.
See, this is hard. Edmonds is the easy one for me. I think he's got the safest volume out of all 3 of them, because Antonio Brown's an absolutely stacked offense where anybody can score touchdowns at any given moment. And Damian Harris fumbled last week, and if I know anything about Bill Belichick running backs, is that once they make a mistake, they're in the doghouse for at least like 2 weeks. So, and I mean, granted, Ramondre Stevenson also fumbled, so there's no telling where that's going to go. But Harris still got 100 yards last week, which is absolutely insane to me. I can't believe I missed that. Like Sunday evening, I woke up Monday and realized, oh, he actually had a 100-yard game against Miami of all people. So I'm going back and forth on Harris and AB, partially because I know that this could be a big game for every single wide receiver in Tampa due to the fact that they're playing Atlanta and are probably going to win by 42.
And Tom Brady, we know Tom Brady. We know how he likes to rub it in with people. He had apparently he did some interview where the background of his computer screen
the clock
said, the clock was somehow like 283.
No, 328. It was 328.
I'm sorry, 328. 328. Yeah.
What is that? 320. Oh, that's.
It was 20. It was 28-3 was the lead the Falcons had over the Patriots in the Super Bowl. The Patriots did that on their jumbotron. The first game the next season when they played the Falcons, or I don't remember if it was the first game, but whenever they played the Falcons, it was on the jumbotron on their diamond rings. I think they had 283 little stones in their Super Bowl rings. That's like a huge thing for Tom Brady, and so he's gonna want to just rub it in even more against a terrible Falcons team.
Oh, man. Oh, it's gonna be rough. In that game, I'm assuming do not play Davis, right? I mean, I think I have to, but
Yeah, it's for me. It's one of those situations where like my other running back option is like Boston Scott or something like that, where it's just like I really have no other choice.
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. But I kind of feel like, well, I guess he could catch some passes, you know.
Yeah, I somehow only ended up with Davis in one league. I think I traded
21.
out of 21. I traded him in a couple places. That wasn't by design. I thought he would be. I actually wanted him in some more places, but yeah, I mean he can catch some passes, but I mean they used Patterson that way some last week, and the Bucks are just rough on running backs. So I would do my best to try to find an alternative to Mike Davis this week, and then after that, I mean, he's got a decent little stretch of like the Giants, the Redskins, the Jets, but yeah, this week I don't want any part of Mike Davis. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And I'm honestly kind of just hoping that over the next 3 weeks, because this week I don't know if it's going to happen, that the Falcons do something. Ridley killed me. I for sure killed me in a league. Pitts didn't kill me, but he definitely hurt me in a league. Davis barely did anything, and I know Ryan, one of my friends, I think had him in 2 leagues, and it destroyed his week. But granted, he was also starting Saquon and Najee Harris, so that was kind of like a domino effect. But the Falcons kind of need to get their offense together, I think.
It's yeah, it's scary. I mean, yeah, Matt Ryan, 164 yards last week, no touchdowns or anything.
It's Philly.
Pitts makes me feel a little bit better because even though he didn't really do much of anything, he did get 8 targets. And again, he's not really a typical tight end. He's almost like, playing as a rookie receiver. So I took a lot of Pitts, and I hate that Falcons offense, but I feel like he's going to have to get targets because, I mean, who else are they going to, Calvin Ridley and,
Yeah.
Russell Gage.
I'm expecting a big bounce back for Pitts. It maybe just in receptions, and it's his, it's his to lose, whatever he does with those receptions or targets. I mean, because they have to get somebody else involved in the reception game, right? Like, really cannot be the only game in town, obviously.
Yeah, and what worries me a little bit about Ridley is I have him. I think I only have him in one league too. That was a little bit more by design, simply because he was going for so much money. But I think the thing that kind of worried me about him, I would have taken him if he had been like, under $30, but he was getting up into some, DeAndre Hopkins territory there. And, last year he still had Julio Jones most of the season. I know Julio missed some games and stuff like that, but Julio was still out there, more than half the time to be a guy who took coverage away. And a lot of times, when a guy has to go from being the 2 to the 1 full time, that can be tough. And I know it's just one game, and I still like him, but that whole Falcons offense is just worrisome.
Yeah.
We got, a follow-up here. He says, okie dokie, thanks. Last question. This one is hard. LL PPR. Wide receiver and flex spots. Who should I put in? I have AB, DJ Moore, Henderson, Devontae Smith, and Diante Johnson. Yeah, this is a lot harder. I got to go with, is just one? I got to go.
No, wide receiver and flex. Wide receiver
and flex. I got to go AB and Henderson. What do you guys think?
Jared, you want to go?
No, I took the last one first. You go this one.
Okay.
I need a minute more on this one.
Henderson's the easy one for me. I like the volume he got last week in Chicago. Ran pretty well. I think Sony's going to be more of a passing back every now and then, and Stafford isn't a huge dump-off guy, so I like Henderson. He's getting goal line carries. Then after that, it gets tough because AB's got the best matchup, but he also has the worst situation with 5 other people who could catch touchdowns, and Devonta's going up against San Francisco. DJ Moore gets the Saints, and even though he was the most targeted wide receiver that Darnold threw to, outside of McCaffrey, we saw what the Saints did to Devontae and everybody else against Green Bay. And that was against Aaron Rodgers. I don't really know how Sam Darnold's going to handle that. So as much as I like DJ Moore, I honestly might go Antonio Brown or CJ. Either AB or Diante at wide receiver, and Henderson is the easy flex for me. Diante got, I think, the most catches out of all Pittsburgh wide receivers last week. So for PPR, I'll say either AB or Diante, and then Henderson is easy flex for me.
I'm changing mine from Henderson to Diante. I just remembered. This is what's his name? Roethlisberger's first home game back. So
True.
he typically has huge, his first home games of the season has huge, and one of his favorite targets is Diante. I'm probably throwing Diante in there.
Yeah, I'm going Diante and Henderson. I mean, Henderson, when it's a starting running back, even if it's still PPR, even if it is PPR, it's still like he had the vast bulk of the carries last week. Maybe Sony gets worked in more. Sony Michel gets worked in more as time goes on, but until you really see that happen, I think I would, trust him. And then Diante is the number one option in that passing offense. The Raiders pass defense does not scare me. And the Steelers are back home where Ben tends to play better. So it would be Diante and Henderson for me. The other, I wouldn't feel bad about starting any of those guys. That's a pretty good group. That is a tough one, but I think those two are probably the safest options in terms of, what they're going to get in terms of target share. And then even like in the case of Diante, opponent too, where I would rather throw a guy out there against the Raiders versus, DJ Moore with the Saints, who actually did pretty well last week, shutting down the pass. And AB, it's a different situation where, it might get out of hand that they don't even need some of those guys, towards the fourth quarter or whatever. So Deontay
Blaine Gabbert comes
Henderson.
in the third quarter. Mark my words.
Maybe. Although I just I can see Brady just wanting to just stick it in, drive it,
man.
Eric Courier says J-Boo. He's calling me J-Boo.
I like it. I think we need to make that a thing.
No, I don't.
Or Jaboo.
Jaboo. Jaboo. I like that better. Should I start Drake or Tyson against you?
I can't.
If I want to win, play Tyson. I think Drake is gonna. I think he's gonna do well. What were they saying?
So I don't
think about Barber being the bulk of the carries or something.
That was what I was about to ask, because I don't understand this. They they signed Kenyon Drake to a pretty big contract for a backup. Last week he didn't have a good week in terms of, he finished with points, but in terms of his actual rushing, he had 6 attempts for 11 yards. Yahoo's now saying, relaying a report from Ian Rappaport that Peyton Barber is expected to handle some of the lead back duties. So I don't really, and so
direction.
Maybe but
this is John Gruden. Let's be clear. This is Gruden.
That's true, and that's a good point. And they were making a big deal last week out of the fact that I guess Mayock and Gruden's first round draft pick, which this would have been back. How many years have they been there now? I guess a few. So this would have been from a few years ago, but I think so. And but anyway, that their first round draft pick was a healthy scratch for that game. And I'd have to go back and see who that guy was. I think he was a he was either, I think, an offensive or defensive lineman. But
For the Raiders?
For the Raiders, yeah. I'll have to-
Alex Leatherwood, their O lineman, right? From Alabama or whatever.
Maybe so. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and see
not
the name.
this year, right? This year?
No. This was their first round pick. Yeah, their first ever first round pick. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, they're not, Cleland Farrell. That was who it was. So Cleland Farrell was, let's see, what was he? Trying to see what position he played. Okay, so I guess he was he was the number 4 overall pick out of Clemson in, I forget. I'll have to see. They don't say. This article doesn't say what year he was drafted. But anyway, so they're apparently not afraid to be like, maybe we made a mistake on that. Let's go with somebody else, which is I kind of like that about coaches. Or, seems like too many of them want to stick with a guy just because they don't want to look like fools for signing him or drafting him or whatever. Still, that's kind of rough.
That can make you look more like a fool, right? Like if that guy just ends up being terrible, you got to cut your losses.
Yeah.
AJ, what do you think, man? Do you think that they're really going to go? They're going to hammer Peyton? What's his name? Barber?
Peyton Barber. Yeah.
I'm worried he gets goal line carries. I'm wondering if that's what they're meaning when they say he's going to get it, because I believe Drake actually got the same amount of touches as Jacobs did. But the one thing, which may have been due to the fact that Jacobs was banged up and now out again. But I think I maybe like Drake a little more because he also caught 5 passes. So especially if this is PPR, I think I like the fact that he's their passing back right now. So I would go Drake. I like Tyson, but my boy Latavius Murray is coming up real strong. So
parenthetically, this league he's talking about though is not PPR. It's total no. You don't get any reception.
Still probably Drake for me because Tyson's splitting time with Lamar and Latavius. So I'll probably say Drake. And who did the Ravens get the Chiefs this week.
Ooh.
The Steelers get the Raiders get the Steelers.
Yeah, the Raiders get the Steelers. That's neither. Neither
Check
one.
down city, Kenyon.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's tough.
That is tough. And the Ravens are sort of doing, like the typical NFL coaching thing where Tyson Williams was just tearing up the Raiders. 65 yards on 9 carries. He added another 29, caught 3 of his 4 targets. He had a touchdown. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, we had it penciled into the calendar that we would now put in Latavius Murray. And so we'll just ride him out for the rest of the game. And then he had a whopping 28 yards on 10 carries, got a touchdown, but they just kept plotting him over and over. And honestly, I think that's the reason they lost that game. I think if they left Tyson Williams in there, they win that game.
Well, a lot of people, I saw some tape that went back and asked, like, why the heck did they do that? Some of it had to do with his not knowing what he was doing out there. Now, he had some pretty good production, but apparently he kept trying to take the ball from Lamar on the fake handoffs, on the play action.
Okay. Interesting.
And I think Lamar was getting really frustrated with him.
Look,
he wasn't getting his blocks either.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that he was like, look, Lamar, I don't think you're having a great night throwing the ball. I'm doing well running. I know what you wanted to do on this play, but what if I just go ahead and take the ball and run with it?
Yeah. And also, like, missing blocks, please. Their entire offensive line was missing blocks that game.
That's true.
And Lamar let's see, what did Lamar fumble twice? And so I'm willing to give Tyson the benefit of the doubt and just saying he was like, look, let me make an executive decision here on this play.
Well, Eric also says Diante by a mile. He's a wide receiver 1 or 2 every week. I don't know. Even non PPR. I don't know. To me, it kind of rotates. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets. I mean, he seems like he gets dinged up every week, and then Juju becomes, it sort of starts to take some of the mantle back. I don't know. Maybe Diante is just the guy there, but it doesn't feel solid to me. Does it to you guys? Does it feel like he's just the knockdown, drag out? He's the man.
Look, Diante I drafted a ton of him, so I've got to defend him on this here. But I will agree with your concern about his health. That does worry me. But the guy had 144 targets last year in 15 games. I mean, he even missed a game and he still had 144 targets. And I think a couple of those he left pretty early. He was just a target monster. And then postseason, in their one postseason game, he had 16 targets. So, he came back with 10 last week, still getting double digits. He didn't, he only caught 5 for 36. But he had a touchdown to kind of, salvage some of that. So, I mean, I think in fantasy football, the old saying of you've got to follow the targets holds true. And Diante was just so cheap. I mean, I was, getting him for like $9 in auction leagues for a guy that's, top, like I think 6 or 7, or was last year in terms of targets. So, I think you gotta, unless he ends up with an injury and that looks like it's going to limit him and it's questionable if he's even going to go or not, I think you got to roll him out pretty much every week.
Yeah, and I don't know about wide receiver 1 or 2 every week, but for this year at least. But the way I look at their offense is Claypool's the touchdown guy. He's the guy they look for in the red zone. He's their deep ball. Juju is kind of, I don't know what he does anymore. He's like the mid-range type guy. And then for everything else, there's Diante Johnson. For short passes and all of your Pittsburgh needs, there's Diante Johnson. So, yeah, like Jared said, just for the fact of the role he plays in the offense is so big.
It's almost like 3 brothers. Where like Juju's the stereotypical middle child that's just kind of there, like Claypool's the exciting baby that scores the touchdowns, and Diante is like the older brother that does, and Juju's just there, and he pops.
And Antonio Brown is their crazy cousin who lives in Tampa.
Yes, right. That's a pretty good,
I got to make a poster for that.
Continuation of the narrative. Eric he's pounding me, man. I don't know. We might have a new nemesis here.
Look, give the man some credit. He went 3-1 against Jared and I combined last week.
Who, John?
No, you did. You went 3-1 against Jared and I.
I'm very excited. He says to beat you, J-Boo. Do you guys know the Fish song "Got a Jaboo"?
No.
It pronounces it perfectly. Jaboo. Jaboo.
No,
Jaboo.
we'll have
Jaboo. Got a Jaboo.
So I was right then.
Yeah. Jaboo.
Gotta play it on stream and get copyright claim just for the meme alone.
You're not gonna beat me, Eric. All right. So I think. No, I didn't. I was going to say I had Mclaurin. No, I had Mclaurin in my league with you, Jared. And he had 22 points. I'll take that. I wasn't expecting that. That's a nice little. But yeah, in that league though, I've got some good players. I've got Kelsey Kamara. And actually, I don't know how this happened, but I ended up with a lot of Stafford.
Yeah.
You know how it happened? I've been anti-Stafford, right? Like I've been anti-Stafford, but when I saw him going so low, right? Like he was for a quarterback who, has great weapons. I was thinking there's no way he should be going down here with like he was like people were drafting him down there with the likes of
below Hurts and Herbert and everybody.
Well, Herbert was going a little earlier, but yeah. What's his name from
Below Ryan. And we saw how that worked out.
Who?
Matt Ryan. He was going below Ryan.
Matt Ryan. Yeah, he was going below Matt Ryan. Who's the Browns quarterback?
Baker.
So I saw Baker going ahead of him. I'm like, man,
That's
take a
nuts.
piece of this. And I just started getting more and more. Two people I started getting more and more of, and that is Stafford and Bengals guy. What's his name?
Jamar Chase?
Joe Burrow.
No, Joe Burrow. Yeah, Joe Burrow. Just they were so cheap for quarterbacks. I was like, man, come on.
Yeah.
They got too good of weapons to be going down here with question marks like
Baker.
Baker.
who threw for 250 yards, no touchdowns, and no picks last game. Just
you know who I had a lot more of and who I've always been a big proponent of but still didn't get him. I think because of where I drafted, like my place in the draft, I wasn't going to take him number one. Maybe I should have, in the first top three. I had a lot of top three picks, and that is Chubb. Chubb is looking really good.
Yeah.
I don't care that he doesn't catch passes. He's just he gets so many chunk plays.
Yeah, I wish I'd taken more of him too. I don't remember how many leagues I ended up with him in, just a few. But yeah, I wish I had taken more of him and maybe a little bit less of because I had, I think, Najee in an extra. Yeah, I've got Najee in one more league than I have Chubb. I wish I had, and they were going in some leagues around similar prices. Chubb was going for maybe, $4 or $5 more, but I wish I had spent that extra $4 or $5 on him. Not that I don't trust. It's more about like Pittsburgh's offensive line and seeing if they are able to do a better job with that this year. We'll see.
I think that's a great topic to talk about. And Anthony joins us. What's up, Anthony? Good to have you in the chat, brother. Who are some guys that you wish you had taken more of? Now, I think it's too early to really tell. But I think let's kind of combine that. Okay, let's combine that with who are some good trade targets, right? Because, I mean, Chubb would be hard to trade for right now. But when you brought up Najee, I think Najee is actually a pretty good trade target because he's going to continue to get a lot of carries. Yeah. And he's not going to have – I mean, this could be his week right now where he busts out.
Yeah, against the Raiders too. But I mean, granted, Raiders are weird. Their D-line is great against the pass, but not great against the run. I don't know what to think of them so far. But then again, that's how the Raiders always are.
And they're always kind of fun. But so who are some players that you wish you'd had more of? And maybe some players that you're going to try to get because you don't believe, how bad they were. A lot of people are saying Ezekiel Elliott's a good trade target, because he did so bad and burnt so many people. I think that's a little bit too obvious. Who are some guys that you're going to? I think I'm going to try to get some Najee. I might even do some, since I'm so heavy on the Bengals pass catchers, I might trade in like a Higgins or a Chase for a Najee and maybe somebody else, if I can, something like that. Do you guys have any good trade targets you're looking at?
I don't have a ton right now just because I think a lot of times after 1 week, people are not ready to hit the panic button yet, but after 2 weeks, they may be a little bit more likely to. Depending on what people would want for him, I am sort of interested in seeing, if I could get Saquon cheap in some more places. And
based on what you were saying earlier, I was like that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I mean, and I know, like, I understand the arguments, against him, and I think there's validity in there and stuff. But running back is just every year it gets like thinner and murkier in terms of running back situations. Seemingly, it's so hard to find a running back that's getting the bulk of the carries in a good offense with a good offensive line. And it's like trying to line up an eclipse or something, And so, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, great offense, but for whatever reason, he's not, at least in week one already, after a disappointing rookie season, he still didn't really do anything exciting. Some of these other guys are, splitting time. And so Saquon, at least, if he's healthy, then they're going to give him the ball more. These first couple of weeks have been sort of, trying to work him back in. And this second week was a short week. So he's a guy that I think, after 2 weeks, it's been an unusual situation where they've been limiting his carries. He's probably going to get some more. He's got some teams coming up like, Atlanta and Dallas and Carolina and the Raiders. And, his schedule is not terribly intimidating. So depending on what people would want for him, I think he's a guy that I would be sort of interested in. Some of these others.
Who would you trade for him? Just real quick. Who would you be willing to trade for him? Would you trade a Diante for what's his name?
Diante Johnson.
Would you trade Diante Johnson for him? Would you?
Even though I like Diante, I mean, if the cost was just like Diante and a running back, or then I would be willing to make that deal. Another guy that sort of interests me, again, we may have to kind of wait to see how week 2 plays out before people are more willing to, push a panic button on him. But, Javonte Williams, he got the majority of carries there in week 1, but his stat line, just didn't look great because he had 14 for 45 yards or something like that. Yeah. Gordon had 11 but he had 101 and a touchdown because he had that 70-yard run for a touchdown. So I might put a couple of offers out there for Javonte now, but especially if he doesn't have that great of a week 2 against Jacksonville, then maybe people would be more willing to hit the panic button because, I mean, if he's getting more carries, I mean, it's always going to be, I think, a split as long as they're both healthy. It's always going to be a split in Denver this year. But, I think if you could get him for cheap, he's a guy I'd be interested in getting more of.
Yeah, their schedule does open up a little bit. Looks like who are they playing? They're playing the Seahawks? No, they're playing.
So they get the Jaguars and then the Jets, and then they have a couple of rough games with Baltimore and Pittsburgh, but Ravens. Then it's, Ravens, Browns, Washington, Dallas, Philly, and their playoff schedule, they get the Raiders in the first week of the playoffs. That's kind of appealing. So, so that's a guy, that's kind of interesting. Another guy, kind of depending on how we see how this week goes is, the guy you were talking about is, Trey Sermon, because now that Mostert's out, regardless of what Sermon does this week, I think towards later in the season, he could come on. So what about y'all?
That's a good one. AJ, what about you? Right, why are you thinking? Eric says he traded for DK Metcalf on the cheap. That's a good one. That's somebody who didn't have a very satisfactory first week that people might be, and people were kind of hesitant in drafting him. I noticed too.
Yeah,
did he go a little cheaper than you thought? Because he did for me.
Not in my leagues. No, he was still pretty expensive in my leagues.
Yeah.
AJ, what about you, buddy?
Oh man, see, that's a question I'm trying to figure out myself. Because here's part of my problem, especially in deeper leagues, because running back is so just wiped right now. It's hard to be able to put together a deal for someone else where I'm not getting gypped because the other team also is in need of, 5 running backs or whatever. So that's the hardest part about it. I mean, I guess players I'm looking at, I like Jamal Williams. I like the receiving yards that he was able to get. I've always liked Devonta Smith. He's going to be going I feel like he won't go incredibly high, but I like his target share. He looked good last week with Hurts. He runs routes perfectly well. And like I said before, Philly's schedule is just cupcake easy half the times. Like every other game is just a terrible defense. Someone offered me they give me James Robinson, and I give Robbie Anderson straight up, which I'm don't know if I'm feeling or not because I like J-Rob enough, and Hyde stuff's coming out like he's banged up now. It was game script dependent. Urban Meyer just had a bad game and everything, so J-Rob I think is someone that you can get really cheap too. So that's a player that I wouldn't mind grabbing because he's just going for absolutely nothing right now.
Yeah.
And Marvin Jones. Of course.
Marvin Jones, yeah, you can probably get him.
I could, as soon as someone's gonna bring up he scored 16 points, I'll say, yeah, on the Jaguars. Then that I feel like that's all the trade argument I need to make that he plays for the Jaguars.
I think that would work. Oh, did you guys have anything else?
What about you? What about you?
Oh,
yeah.
I talked about I wanted to go for some Najee, but I also who was I thinking? Some tight ends that I thought were going kind of low. After Logan Thomas had kind of a down week this week, and since it was a Thursday game,
True.
I think he may be able. I might be able to get him in some places where I'm weak on tight end. I think I'd be okay giving for example, I would give someone like who's that guy we talked about earlier for the Colts, the wide receiver. I don't know if anybody would take him though.
You're talking about Pittman?
Yeah, nobody's going to take Pittman, but somebody who had a good week. That is sort of at that caliber for Logan Thomas. Trying to think who I might trade for him. I think I would trade any one of these guys, these waiver wire phenoms. Like who's the one for the 49ers?
Eli Mitchell.
I'd trade Eli Mitchell.
Do
you think somebody would take Eli Mitchell for some Logan Thomas?
Yeah,
100% fast. Yeah.
I don't have a great deal of interest in Eli Mitchell, especially since I've got Sermon most places. And I'm just putting all my money in Sermon. And then who's the other guy you guys like?
We clearly need a sheet for him that has all rosters that he can just stick by somewhere scan.
And maybe just like a speed dial system. That Ravens running back, Tyson Williams.
This feels like one of those old game shows where you got two people and one of them's got to describe the thing to the other person so they can guess it. And it's like, okay, it plays for the Ravens, running back, rookie season, Tyson Williams,
Yes, Tyson Williams. I don't have any desire to have any Tyson Williams, but I have him in a couple places. I wouldn't mind trading him for a good tight end, especially like Logan Thomas. I think a lot of people are pretty hyped on Tyson, and not as much maybe as remind me of his name for the 49ers.
Eli Mitchell.
Eli Mitchell. I got to get that in my head. You know what I did? I did a really good trade this week that I think more people should do is go out and trade. This was basically on your advice, Jared, was trade for Brown. What's his name? Marquise Brown. I traded Hollywood. I traded I think his name is wide receiver for the Jets, the rookie that everybody's talking about.
Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. No, it's Elijah Moore. Yeah. I traded Elijah Moore for Brown, and I thought that was a pretty good trade. I think I think Elijah Moore, and this was in a dynasty, so Elijah Moore could be blow up huge. And I like Elijah Moore. However, I think you're right, Jared. Looking into it further, I think Brown could be an explosive target for them, especially if their running game isn't working out very well.
Right.
He's going to be throwing a lot more.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we have a little bit more in the chat.
Yeah, Eric Courier, $100,000 pyramid. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
What's that?
The game
That's
show.
the game show I was talking about, where someone's like trying to describe. Yeah,
Is that what it's called? Oh, man, I've
Mhm.
never even heard of that. If Jared loses to me in this week's matchup, highly likely, and starts his season 0-2, should he change his name from the Absolute Stud to the Absolute Dud?
absolutely not, because you don't give up after 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Correct.
Also, for Anthony, by the
man,
way,
flexing.
he posted a question in our Discord, by the way. He said in the Superflex League for his quarterback 2, should he start Matt Ryan or Tua?
I would start Tua. Without a doubt.
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, after seeing that Falcons offense last year, but I mean, they're gonna keep. He's gonna have to keep throwing unless it just gets so bad that they pull Ryan, which is, I don't know. That might be a possibility. Yeah, man. I guess I would actually lean towards Tua here. Yeah.
Tua? Yeah.
Mhm.
What about what do you think, AJ?
I just keep thinking about the 32-6, 160 yards, no touchdowns, no picks for Matt Ryan. I keep thinking about that against Philly.
Yeah.
And Tua didn't have a blow up game by any means, but he had a good game against a Belichick defense
in Foxborough. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd go Tua.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, we're running out of things to talk about. We're running out of comments. Did you guys have anything you wanted to cover before we blow this popsicle joint?
Isn't it stand?
Yeah, it's popsicle stand. Also, after thinking about Anthony's comments, if somehow my team did do poorly this season, I think I would change it to the absolute subs, and then just say that they're great. They're great substitute players.
Nice. That's a good way of putting it.
I squeeze lemonade out of lemons.
That's probably
That's
good.
the only thing you wait. No, what?
What?
So it's not lemon juice. It's just straight up lemonade.
That's right. I find these genetically enhanced lemons that produce lemonade without
Right.
needing sugar. That's right.
Right.
All right. Well, that's a great place to end. Do we have any updates on some good defenses? Or actually, this is a good segment we should get a stinger for is defenses and kickers that we might want to pick up this weekend. People that flying under the radar. Some good defenses in particular that, like maybe the Packers, right? Because they're going to come out like buzzsaws.
If they're available anywhere.
Yeah. They might not be. But I would definitely pick them up if I saw them.
Yeah, I actually just found out the Patriots defense is available. They're playing the Jets, so I'm just going to go ahead and
Patriots?
swap
That's a
them
good
real
one.
quick.
The
Well,
Packers.
they're 88% rostered. I just noticed they're on my waiver, and I don't like Indianapolis against Stafford, so just give me a second.
The Packers are available in they're only 42% owned overall. They're available in 9 out of my leagues, and I mean the fact that they're not super appealing after that week 1 game, but I think you're right. They're probably going to be upset. Their pride's going to be hurt. The Lions are going to be missing at least one, if not more, players. And defense is just this year. I don't know, like some of the defenses that I thought, oh, they're going to be pretty good. Now I'm like, after week one, they're worrying me a little bit. So I don't know if I have much of a better defensive recommendation. I think kicker wise, I'm going to be starting some Chris Boswell this week. I drafted the Falcons kicker, Younghoe Koo, because he had such a great year last year. But in that offense, especially against a team like Tampa, where they're probably going to be trailing by a good bit, I don't know if they're going to be settling for a lot of field goals. Maybe they still will, just to put some points on the board. But Boswell is usually pretty good at home. Pittsburgh can score points at home, so I'm firing him up in some leagues, and maybe even going back to the Packers again, maybe Mason Crosby against the Lions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Eric Courier says absolute flubs. That's not real.
No, I can't go too negative.
Yeah, you want to go positive. What other kickers out there do you consider? Do you?
I think top tier.
Top tier.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about Hopkins. I like Carlson. Who's the one for the Miami? Sanders. Like, people are sleeping on Sanders. He was great last year. Yeah. Nothing's changed. He's going to be good this year again.
Yeah, that's another one.
Sanders is on the waiver wire too. You can grab him.
Yeah, I think he's like 60% anybody else right now. I don't know about top tier, but kind of flying under the radar. What's his name? Yeah, let me make sure I get this right. Evan McPherson just got a whopping 11 points for Cincinnati. And now that Burrow's back, if he's like won the starting job, because I can't remember if they had like a kicker out last week because of injury or not. But if he's the locked-in starter, I don't trust the Bengals to get to the end zone every single possession. So I think that's another guy who Bengals stall out of the 40. He's going to get some nice points there. And then who's the one other guy I was thinking about? You mentioned Chris Boswell. I think that's pretty much everybody. I'm always wary about Jason Myers. I do think he's a little bit of a trap sometimes. Seahawks scored too many touchdowns for me. He's a great kicker, don't get me wrong, but I just think Seahawks get into the end zone too much for me.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just agreeing with him.
Well, and what I don't know if this applies to Myers, but what I always look for is a team that can't get in the end zone, but gets close to the end zone, gets within field goal range, but doesn't have that elite, usually doesn't have an elite running back to punch it in. And
that would definitely fit like a lot of teams that we brought up. Miami's running back core is really weird. Jacobs is always banged up. They have a hard time punching it in. Steelers can't run the football still. I mean, that might change, but still.
Yeah.
But
he says thoughts on Rodrigo Blankenship. I mean, I think he's like the number one, right? He's got to be number one. What?
Number one in terms of pickups, or
like he's rostered everywhere, I think.
No, he dropped. He's down to 53%. He got 4 points last week.
Yeah, he's available in more than half my leagues. I like him after this week. But I think just they've got the Rams again this week, and Frank Reich. A part of it was Frank Reich's decision. I think of why people dropped him last week is because the Colts had 2 chances to kick field goals, and Reich went for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2, when he really should have taken those points. I think that's going to correct itself. I think with Seattle, he just knew we kind of need touchdowns. I still think he made at least one mistake there, not going for at least one of those field goals. But I think when they're not playing teams that he feels like he has to match for touchdowns, that's going to change. And also he's probably going to be like, oh yeah, that does look kind of bad. I probably need to go for the field goals. So I think, but I just don't know then with the Rams coming in this week, if this is going to be the week. So I think like in another week, Rodrigo can potentially be a great option for the rest of the season. This week, I would still be a little bit worried about him, I think.
Yeah.
Blue Crew says, thank you as always, guys. Advice last week got me the W.
Let's go.
Nice.
Hopefully that'll be 2 weeks in a row. Keep it going.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's a good note to go out on. I think I've got to go. So what do you guys think? It's a good time to go?
Hour and 20 minutes in, I think we've provided a solid amount of fantasy advice for a weekend. And
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Eric and Blue and what were some of the
Anthony?
Not
even average.
Up. Not even
Battle
average.
Royale.
Yeah, Battle Royale was in there too. Thank you, everybody, and everybody who didn't leave a comment but is watching now. Thank you so much, and we will see you next Saturday. Oh, are we doing
Monday?
No, we'll see you next
Monday, right?
Yeah, this coming up Monday night.
Sweet.
We'll be there, and so goodbye, everybody, and have a great weekend. See you
Good
on
luck.
the chats. All right, there it is.